Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Punch Man Season 2, Episode 22, Justice Under Siege. The episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So we start the episode with Saitama and King playing video games together where Saitama is losing badly, repeatedly, and becoming extremely frustrated by it when he happens to notice a little, black, almost looks like a pager, but with more buttons. And King explains that that is a new communicator that the Hero Association's been giving out to some heroes. And Saitama mentions that he didn't get one, and King suggests perhaps it's because there's so many buttons, given that he keeps losing the video game and the controller has a lot of buttons, which of course pisses Saitama off. Then we return to where we have the Hero Association, and Gyoro is relaying the message from the Monster Association, and at first he kind of jokingly says that what they want is world peace to coexist. We'll stay in our little area of City Z that's been abandoned. We won't interact with people. Let's coexist. And one of the Hero Association executives decides to try to trick him back by agreeing, but if he gets shot in the head for his troubles. And then Goro laughs and basically says, "No, we're here actually to challenge you. We took a hostage. Come try to save the hostage. Send your best." And this is when Super Alloy Dark Shine comes in, and he essentially stops the parasite from being able to. Well, basically, his skin's too hard for the parasite to get through, and he calms the association down, the executives down, and says, "Don't worry, I got this. Look at my muscles. They're awesome, aren't they?" Meanwhile, back at the Monster Association, Guro and Orochi are giving a speech to the other monsters about how they're going to rule the world and that they should swear fealty to Orochi. Of course, none of them applaud. Guro's like, "Why aren't you applauding? Do you not want to swear fealty to Orochi?" And of course, some of them state that, they came together so they could beat the heroes, but they don't actually want to be, ruled by anybody. And so Guro, or rather Orochi, makes an example of Awakened Cockroach, who lost his legs in the battle but still managed to survive and come back. Do-S almost dies, but manages to be spared because she got away pretty unscathed. But this does bring up the fact that Gotetsu isn't there, and so Guro uses one of his little satellite selves to look and ends up finding his corpse and is shocked that somebody was actually able to do that to him and doesn't know who it was. We then move on to where Genos has been repaired by Dr. Kusano, who warns him not to be too gung-ho about justice and too fired up because all's good as long as he survives, but his life is precious and he has another mission as well. And Genos says that he understands that. We then go to the hospital where we see newspapers coming out about all of the situations between the two associations, and one of the executives being dead, the child of a donor being held hostage. And in the hospital, we have the martial artists who are basically like, if the heroes lose, where does that leave the rest of us? And they basically decide it leaves them dead. Then we move on to Child Emperor and Metal Knight talking about the challenge and how Metal Knight doesn't want to save the hostage, just wants to bomb the place. And Child Emperor is like, we need to at least try to save the hostage. This is like where our funding comes from. And ultimately that conversation goes nowhere. But then we get to the meat and bones of the episode, which is essentially Garo wakes up after having been kicked by Saitama, and much like the last time, he doesn't remember Saitama at all. He does remember that he was about to attack King, though, so he attributes his injuries to King, not Saitama. And he makes his way to the shack that he's been staying in at the park, where he basically does first aid on himself and is suffering from a bit of a fever, as he is in pretty bad shape after the kick he took. And some kids who decided that that shack was going to be their secret hideout sends Tario, the boy that he's been reading the Hero Almanac from, in to tell him to get out. And once Tario goes inside, Garo does, in fact, because he knows the kid, decide that he will leave, but not yet. He needs a couple days to recover, then he'll get out of the secret base. And Tario goes to leave, but as he goes to leave, Garo senses that he's been surrounded, and he realizes that there are 8 heroes outside that are going to be trying to attack him, but obviously he has a child in there. A child would be in danger, so he tells the child to get down, quickly looks at the Hero Almanac to see if he can identify the heroes, before he ultimately then goes outside to face all of the heroes and tells them not to shoot up the shack. He doesn't tell them why they shouldn't be shooting up the shack, but requests that they don't. And then he starts to fight all of the heroes. However, because he is injured, he ends up at a disadvantage, gets poisoned with some arrows, shot by Shooter, and that's essentially where we leave the episode, is him in a fight against all of them and beginning to waver and make mistakes because he's, 8-on-1. So now that we've been reminded about the episode, it's now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our 2 ranking lists, the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So on our mostly objective rank list, we have our mostly objective rank values. And to start, we have our single episode supporting character introductions. We get 1 new monster given a highlight at the Monster Association meeting, and that's Black Sperm. Then we have the 2 new heroes that have shown up amongst this group of heroes, and that's Wildhorn and Glasses. And they're each worth 1 point, so that brings us to 2. Then we have our multi-episode supporting character development, which of course is Garo, who has been injured, has to fight multiple heroes at once, while also trying to not let them know that there's a child in the shack, and that is another 2 points, bringing us to 4. Then we have our world building elements, which is worth another 4 points, bringing us up to 8 points. And that is, of course, the challenge of the Monster Association to the Hero Association to send their best heroes to rescue the hostage. And that's a minor development. The main one is that the Hero Association has been giving heroes some emergency communicators to try to allow for better coordination and backup. And so that's another 4 points, again bringing us to 8. However, there was the negative messaging or behavior, and this, of course, is to do with 1, ganging up on an injured opponent, even if it is a villain, isn't really nice. It's not honorable, let's say. But at the same time, Garo is a villain, he declared himself such, and therefore it is forgivable. It's not necessarily the most honorable or ethical thing, but again, they're facing a hero, so the number advantage. Oh, wait, they're heroes facing down a villain, so the number advantage is important. Garo's done a lot of damage to date, so again, number advantage is important, and taking advantage of his weakness also. They may not be able to win otherwise, so it does make sense, but it still isn't necessarily, again, honorable. And then the other one, of course, is putting a child in danger. Garo doesn't tell them that there's a child in the shack, but several of the heroes who are fighting Garo use long-range weapons. If Garo dodges, those could shoot up the shack. That could cause potential injury to the child. So Garo is wrong for not letting the heroes know that there is a child in the shack that could end up injured by this fight. But also, none of the heroes are checking or sensing to see if anybody else is there besides Garo. And they did see a bunch of kids outside, so why wouldn't they then make sure that there isn't a kid inside? And of course, the kids who sent Tario in there, um, they just run off with him inside, which also terrible behavior, abandoning a friend. So I feel like all of these things combined is worth the -2 points, which brings us to 6. And this is a 6 out of 10 episode. So that brings our list so far to In First, The Human Monster, The Hunt Begins, The Metal Bat, Return of the Hero, The Martial Arts Tournament, The S-Class Heroes, The Monster Uprising. This episode, Justice Under Siege, comes in 8th, then The Troubles of the Strongest, followed by The Resistance of the Strong. So obviously the first couple bits of the episode are meeting at the Heroes Association, meeting at the Monster Association, Saitama getting frustrated playing games. Um, so the first part of the episode, kind of boring, not really doing much. It is funny seeing Saitama lose so badly on the video games and his frustration. So that's a little bit fun, but ultimately, again, like not a lot of plot progression or plot moving on. The main thing that this episode is focused on is the fight of Garo versus multiple opponents, and it is an interesting fight. Like, it is 8-on-1 and has the added element of Garo trying to keep the fight away from the child in the shack that he hasn't informed the heroes are there, the heroes don't know is there. So that adds an element of it. The fact that Garo is injured and can't go all out also is a bit unfortunate, but at the same time, given how powerful Garo is, and the fact that he has declared himself a villain and defeated multiple heroes in the past, I understand why they're ganging up on him 8-1. They kind of have to. But also, it adds an element of the fight where it's not really satisfying because you know they're ganging up on someone who's not at full strength. And even if they win, they won against an injured opponent. So there's a lack of satisfaction in the fight, though again, it is visually appealing. It is fun to see how all the different heroes' powers and how they coordinate and the different weapons that they use. So overall, I decided to give it a 5, make it an average, because there is some plot progression with the various meetings between the Monster Association, Hero Association, the fun little bit with Saitama, and then it is a visually appealing and interesting fight to watch. But again, there's a lack of satisfaction and a lack of actual like doing things. And again, I don't know. With the method that I use on this channel to rank episodes, it's basically like ranking each tree to determine how good the forest is. You know, when you miss the forest for the trees though, I'm ranking each tree and most of them are pretty good. But when I look at the forest overall, from like the high place and I look down at it, I am extremely disappointed at the fact that our main characters, Genos and Saitama, seem to be very much missing from this season. Like they're in each episode, but in like bit parts. They're not the center or the focus. And in season 1 they were, and that led to a lot of comedy. And obviously from season 1, we are attached to the main characters, or at least I'm attached to the main characters, while these other bit part characters and like Garo being the human monster getting his like little time on screen. I'm not against that, but I just wish that in balance of that, they also had Saitama and Genos still with their screen time and having a large screen time, because I feel like I'm very much missing the main characters as well. And that's not specific to this episode, but just so far the season overall is a bit disappointing for missing the main characters, which again are whom I, as an audience, have grown attached to because they were very much the focus of season one. Even if you had like little asides to other characters, it was little asides to the other characters. In this season, it seems like it's little asides to the main characters, and then we're spending a bunch of time with secondary and supporting characters, and I'm like, I don't really care about these people. Not saying like, not in a mean way, but just like, they aren't who I got attached to, and they're not who I care about as a character. You know, the characters that I want to see and want to have development and want to follow the story of are the main characters. But either way, this episode, again, average 5 out of 10. And that brings our rankings so far to in first, the S-Class Heroes, The Hunt Begins, The Human Monster, Return of the Hero, The Resistance of the Strong, The Monster Uprising, The Martial Arts Tournament, Justice Under Siege, The Troubles of the Strongest, and then in 10th is The Metal Bat. And now we come to our series rankings so far. We're on our mostly objective ranking. Season 1 ended with 88.33%, and Season 2 ended with 74 out of 120. On the personal ranking side, we have Season 1 ending with 76.67%, and then Season 2 has 64 out of 120 so far. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Punch Man Season 2, Episode 22, Justice Under Siege. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.